This is Andrew for CollectionDX.com taking a look at the Japanese version of Combiner Wars Devastator, Unite Warriors Devastor. Of course, it also says Devastator on the box, so I'll just call him that for the duration of this review. If you want a quick refresher on what the Combiner Wars version looks like, please check out my fellow CollectionDX reviewer Sininji's review, which you can find right here. And before I get into this, I just kind of want to give you guys a sense of where I'm coming from with this review. So, right here is one of my formative experiences with Transformers. This old yellow clamshell VHS case that just says Transformers Volume 10 on it. And inside the box is a video cassette of Heavy Metal War, the debut episode for the Constructicons and Devastator. I'm not sure if this is the first episode of Transformers I ever saw, but this is definitely one that I've ever watched the most. I definitely think this is the first one I ever owned, even before getting the movie and a couple other tapes here and there. So I am really, really nostalgic for Devastator, for like this episode and all that, and so that's kind of where I'm coming from with this review. And just to kind of say it up front, I think this is a pretty good toy, so let's get into Unite Warriors Devastator. So first up is Constructicon team leader, and probably my favorite of the bunch, Scrapper. And Scrapper is just what you expect him. He's a big, chunky, all-plastic front-end loader. His bucket can move up and down. There's a couple of joints on this thing, so you can have some fun with it there. And he just kind of rolls around on his, again, all-plastic wheels, but at least this time the rims are painted in. And one thing you're going to notice that does not come with the Combiner Wars version is a gun. And this thing just plugs on to the back of one of the smokestacks here. And it will sit there nice and happily. And also, they don't really talk about this in the instructions, but if you take the wing halves for Devastator's chest plate, there's a hole in the back here, and you can totally just stick these on, just like on the original toy. Although it doesn't have the middle part of the chest plate, but still, we've got our flying front end loader, just like on the old G1 toy. So that is very cool. I appreciate that they brought that back. Size-wise, he's about 7 inches long in this mode, so about 6.5 actually. I know he's 7. So he's ostensibly part of Combiner Wars, and he's a little bit bigger than your average Combiner War figure. But design-wise, style-wise, he's much more in line with Masterpiece toys, I think. And here we go. 2 characters voiced by Michael Bell. So here he is with Masterpiece Sideswipe. Shoko Hasui, who designed Masterpiece Sideswipe with a bunch of the cars and MP10 Optimus Prime, did the original design for Combiner Wars Devastator. So you're going to see some similarities between the two, and definitely you're going to feel that this is less of Combiner Wars toy and more of kind of a, I don't want to say budget Masterpiece, but it is kind of like making Masterpiece toys with less money to go around than for actual Masterpiece toys. So anyways, let me transform him real quick. So what you're going to do is bring up his bucket, bring up the front part, and this will lock in place like this. You just grab his head, pull it out till it clicks, and his arms here, they're going to come out. They come untabbed from these little tabs right here. This whole thing will, this whole shoulder assembly comes out like that, comes out like that. And one notable improvement over the Combiner Wars version is that Unite Warrior Scrapper has actual elbows. He has more than just this swivel here. He does have a working elbow joint. This is tight. Basically, there's a little plastic ridge that grabs the part of his biceps, so I tend to kind of try to flex it out to help get it off there. You can feel it. It's pretty tight. It's going to be tight the first time you get this guy out of the package. I messed with him for a couple of days, so it's a little bit looser. So you do that, flip his hands out, and this is, his like transformation is definitely feels like a Masterpiece figure, because rather than just flipping this thing out like on the old toy, you actually bring the back part down, bring the front part down, and the bottom part becomes his foot, and then that all locks together. So, again, that feels like a Shogo Hasue thing, sort of like how Sideswipe transforms. So you just sort of get little smokestacks in the back lined up with a hole in his leg, and here we go. Scrapper in robot mode. So I think Scrapper makes probably the best robot of the bunch. He looks a whole heck of a lot like his Generation 1 incarnation. He's got a lot more detail, and he's kind of leaning here. His ankles do tilt, but it can be weird to get everything to be where you want it, because this tends to want to come back up. But anyway, he's a nice, solid, chunky Transformer. He's a bit back heavy because of the scoop on his back there, and it doesn't quite hide quite as neatly as it did in the show, but it still looks pretty good. He's got pretty much every joint you would want. I appreciate the fact that his transformation joint lets him get his arms kind of a lot closer like this, and could even cross his arms if he wanted to. He's got universal joints in his hips, and he's got thigh swivel, single jointed knee, and ankle tilts. So again, he's definitely approaching masterpiece level. Not quite there, but still pretty good. And again, unlike the Combiner Wars version, you get his gun, and it's a nice chunky G1 looking pistol thing. And looks pretty good in his hands, and he has no problems holding it at all. And it's really good that he has a weapon, because otherwise it'd be like the Combiner Wars version, where you just have to put the two halves of Devastator's wing into his hands and pretend this is like a cyber bow. I don't really know what's going on here. They don't even really work as like a batleth or machete, because it doesn't want to fit this way. But yeah. Anyways, I like Scrapper. He looks really good. The only thing he doesn't have is a waist joint. That's because of how he becomes one of Devastator's legs. Although you do get this little tilting joint here. Again, that's for Devastator's ankle tilts, but if you want Scrapper to boogie, well, he can totally do that. Anyway, one last note here. Size-wise, he is... Again, he's, in the about 7 inches tall, a little over it thanks to his scoop on the back there. So he's certainly a bit more in scale with Masterpiece figures than other Combiner Wars figures. So again, he's pretty much Masterpiece, Scrapper, just without quite the same level of engineering as on a normal Masterpiece. Although, again, he's pretty close, and honestly, this is Scrapper. He was never a complex toy, and I don't really want him to be any more complex. This feels pretty good. It's like it doesn't have the Masterpiece level, doesn't have quite the same, like articulated fingers, but still, it's like, ooh, it's hitting me on the right spot. Alright, so, anyway, let's go to the next guy. So here's Mixmaster, the member of the new Constructicons that has managed to confuse a lot of people as to what the hell this is. So for those who don't live in New England like I do and where Hasbro is based, this is a front discharging cement mixer. So the cement actually comes out of here. You can see the little chute right there. Again, these are really only common in a certain part of America. They're not like the classic rear discharging ones that the original was, that you see a lot in Europe and Asia. So for whatever reason, they changed him. Although the Unite Warriors version kind of makes it a bit more cheaty as far as making this whole engine section look like it is the front of the truck, because they added this gray grill part here. They sort of filled this part in so it looks more like a window, but it is just vents for the engine. But yeah, anyway, he's this is what a front discharging cement mixture looks like. Also, the Unite Warriors version, I think it has less gray paint here, so there's only like a bumper right there. I kind of wish they just put the gray right there, because this is more like the bumper than just this part. So, but they still have the little filled in windows, and all that. And as I said before, Unite Warriors adds a gun. This is Mixmaster's pistol, and it just plugs in on either this one or that one. With these little thingies on the back here. Just stick it right in there. Anyway, so his transformation is barely any more complex than the original G1 toy. You just kind of pull his arms out here, and they're just going to swing upwards. You bring this thing forward. This all just detaches. Spread his legs out, and he does have ankle tilts right here. And sort of like with Scrapper, this thing tends to like move back into place even when you're trying to use it as an ankle tilt. But he can still get a nice A stance. So you're going to lift this part up to finish off, and his head will flip out. And this ridge here will just kind of go tuck underneath this little part right there. So here we go. Aside from the change in Mixmaster's alternate mode, he's still pretty on point as far as his robot mode is concerned. He's got, you know, the blocky lower legs, he's got the 2 tires on his arms. The only thing I wish is that this could somehow like swing up like that, so that it looked a bit more like the G1 character and wasn't just sort of like hanging off the back here. The drum doesn't actually turn either because of how the back parts of his heels sort of just lock in there. So it is a non-functioning mixing drum. As far as improvements go, between this and the Combiner Wars version, the Unite Warriors version actually adds what are more or less proper elbows to him. So on the Combiner Wars version, this part here is the elbow, so his forearm looks like it detaches from the rest of his arm. The Unite Warriors version adds this whole section here, so this looks a lot better. It's not perfect, but it looks nice and complete, and if you want, you can still use this for more of a bend in his arm. And also this allows you to kind of use this as like a forearm, just like a little forearm joint right there, a little forearm swivel. It looks okay when you're doing it like that, and also he's got nice fully articulated legs, and again I showed you he's got ankle tilts. So if he didn't have this big thing on his butt, he could probably do the full Van Damme pretty easily, doing the full splits. His head, it moves on a ball joint. You can easily get access to it, even though he's got his little missile hat, like on the original toy, and then the cartoon model as well. But anyway, he looks good with his pistol. He's you know, he's one of those toys where he looks a lot worse in photos. When you get him in hand, you're just like, oh, yeah, this is Mixmaster. He's fine. Not really any problems. You know, he's a nice, posable, modern Transformer, and he looks pretty cool. So his version of using a piece of Devastator for a weapon is the middle chest plate sort of becomes a gun, I guess. You know, if you want, you can swivel his arm like that, and we can pretend this is a shield. But yeah, it's kind of weak as using it as a weapon. But other than that, he's pretty good. I think my only major complaint with him and also Hook, who has kind of similar arms, is he doesn't really have a proper like bicep swivel, so his arms aren't going to be bending inwards at all. But still, you know, he can pull off some nice poses, I think. I definitely am enjoying him a lot more now that I have him in hand than when I just saw the pictures of the toy. And the Unite Warriors version, you know, just kind of adds a little extra layer of polish with the better elbows and all that. Alright, so now it's time for probably the tubbiest member of the bunch. Let's look at Long Haul. So here we have Long Haul, who has probably the most important position in the Combaticons, because he's like basically the center of Devastator, where everybody connects to. And despite the fact that he didn't sign up for this outfit to be a dump truck, everything that is used to make Devastator can happily peg into the back of his dumping bed. The 2 forearm parts here, they actually become little missile launcher things, and they just stick right in these little holes on the back here. The wings, they have a little, it's basically just a little tiny ridge right on here between these two little angled sections in there, and they will happily snap in like that. So that's where you put the wings. The middle of Devastator's chest just pegs in up here in this hole, and this is actually the main portion of Devastator's rifle, and you just plug it into this little rectangular peg on here. It just goes right into the handle. And this last bit is just the front part of Devastator's gun, and you can see it just goes right into that hole right there. So here we go. Here is Long Haul by himself. Again, not hugely changed from the Combiner Wars version, although you might have noticed that he has cartoon-accurate black forearms instead of purple ones like the Unite Warriors version, or the Combiner Wars version. And he does have nice painted-in rims. His bed does not tilt backwards because of how he transforms, but you could still put stuff on it if you want. And his gun actually stores on one of these tabs right here. Just a little slot there, and you just put it there. It tends to kind of blend in though, putting the black gun next to his black forearms. So transforming Long Haul, pretty easy. Although as I'm doing this, you're going to hear the super strong, powerful ratchets that are, again, they become both Long Haul's legs and Devastator's legs. So there's a lot of strength in this guy. So you can just flip these out. This whole part is going to come up out of the way. It also detaches back here. There's a couple of tabs that go into these little slots there. So this whole section comes up, and you're going to want to bring his arms out. Don't bring them up all the way yet. This part tabs in here, just like that. This whole thing will start to move back on this joint up here, but don't tab it in just yet, because you have to rotate the waist around. You can see there's Devastator's own skirt armor right there. And the best way to do this, without trying to move his hips out of the way, is just flip one of these forward, and you can bring out both of Long Haul's legs. To finish this off in the back, you just pop this in place, bring his head up. This is just gonna lock in place, and his arms right here, they will lock in place. There's a slot in this black hinge section here that's going to just go into the little angled tab on the side there. And so here we are, Long Haul in robot mode. So as I mentioned before, Long Haul is pretty much the core of Devastator, and as such, he's got to be pretty beefy to support a whole lot of weight, and also to just kind of be where everybody gets anchored to. As a result, he's a lot chunkier and fatter, like a sumo wrestler, than he was previously, but you have to remember, in the cartoon, Long Haul somehow had the hips of Devastator as part of him as he transformed, whereas on the original toy that was a whole separate piece. And even most of the third-party Long Hauls tend to look very chunky and wide because of how they do their transformations. So unless they have that part as a separate piece, you're going to have to make Long Haul a bit bigger. All that said, the Unite Warriors version, because it adds the very important actual elbow joints, so he can't, because on the Combiner Wars version, you can only do this with his arms. He looks a lot better. I wouldn't say he's vastly improved, but it does help that he actually has more normal-looking forearms now, and also having a gun helps him as well, because kind of hides the fact that his forearms are a little short. I wish these did more, like the fists came out or something like that. Or if this was a little more solid. I mean, they're on the outside of him in robot mode, so it's not like there isn't space to put, a nice bigger, more normal looking forearm, but anyway. Other than that, he's, well, he's just kind of a big, chunky, and frankly, adorable looking guy. I mean, I just want a plush version of this. He's just like, oh, I want to hug him. But anyway, yeah, he's big. He's technically the most articulated of all the members of the Constructicons because he actually does have, you know, a full-on waist joint. He has hips that are super tight because these are Devastator's hips. Look at how much it takes me to actually get this to go outwards. Yeah, it goes out all the way. And he's got a knee swivel, fully posable knees, although these are not Devastator's knees. This part is Devastator's knee, so it's interesting. He's got really just very tight joints, and that's my only complaint when handling just long haul is you have to play around with the part of the really hardest part of Devastator to move, but without any leverage to kind of help you get stuff to move about. But yeah, he's got a head that kind of just turns. I mean, the head is pretty on point for long haul, and if you want, you can also sort of flip this up a bit to give him a bit more room to move his waist around. But yeah, he can look decently dynamic. You know, his arms move all the way around. He actually does have proper bicep swivel. He's just a little bit bigger than the rest of the guys. He's like a head taller than Scrapper here. Again, he's just really a lot wider because, again, he's got to be the core of Devastator. So, would I like him to look more like the G1 incarnation? Yes, but still, this is really quite good. And let's be honest, making long haul into the heavy weapons guy isn't the worst that could happen to him. Topping off Devastator's torso is everybody's favorite snobby perfectionist, Hook, who in Japan, he's the only one with a different name. He's called Gren, which I think is just an intentional misspelling of crane, because, you know, it's Guden and Kudain, if you wrote them in katakana. So, yeah, that's slightly more inspired than just calling the crane guy Hook. But anyway, he's got 4 rolling wheels. He's similar to Mixmaster in a lot of ways. He's got his crane arm. It does not extend and it does not twist. All it can do is go up and down like this. You can pop his own gun onto the side here on this thing. It only fits on this side for some reason. Or as far as I can tell, it only seems to want to fit on this side. When I do it like this, it's too loose. But anyway, also the crane part, for his transformation, it can move like that. So I'll leave it like that for now. But he's pretty basic, not a whole lot changed from the original version. Though again, he does kind of have that Hasui, like, moving panels around to make the legs form, instead of just like flipping this out on the original toy. So I'm going to start off with his legs first then. You bring these things down and these will form the front of his legs and also his feet. So back here you can pull apart the 2 front halves of the crane, and this whole thing is going to come forward. And there's basically just a bunch of tabs that go into slots on this part right here, and you just want to get everything kind of all nicely lined up. And here we go, we got a leg. Same thing on this side. You're actually going to be pulling this out a little bit. It sort of like flexes past some of the tabs that are already there, and also flexes a little outward to get over the tabs that are on the inner parts of his leg. Alright, so you've moved this thing out of the way, and make sure you get it so that this is lined up right here. And you just bring this out. This is going to click in a few places, and you can also just bring his shoulders down like that. One thing that is weird is that this thing rests in kind of an odd position where it feels like it's kind of too close to his shoulders. So you feel like you're doing something wrong here, but as far as I can tell, this is where they're going to end up in robot mode. And to finish it off, you just flip out his hands. Alright, and here we go. Here's Hook in robot mode. So as far as the group goes, Hook is the one that I really want to like a lot more, but he's kind of the weakest one for me. He's, you know, he's got, again, the big crane on his back, and because of it, he sort of always wants to fall backwards. I mean, he can stand by himself without this supporting him, but what I find you have to do is kind of give him the quote-unquote heroic stance or crotch thrust, where you move him forward like this and get the crane arm like just barely touching the ground. I wish the whole thing just sort of collapsed up just a little bit more onto his back. But other than that, he's got comparable articulation to the rest of them. You know, his arms go up in and out. Although he's more similar to a Mixmaster as far as his arms go. Because, like him, his Combiner Wars version had just this as the elbow. And that looks disgusting. We don't like that. And so what they did for the Unite Warriors version is they added kind of a proper inside to his elbow. All it doesn't look quite as good, I think, because this part doesn't line up with his forearm right there. So it's better, but it could have been just, you know, tweaked a little bit more and looked much more complete. So you kind of have this thing going on with his legs. And he does have fully articulated, again, the same kind of hips and the thigh swivel and all that. It's just that his knee doesn't go quite as far. And also, you've got this thing on the back to remind you that he's more or less going to be a tripod the whole time. Again, though, if you get creative, he can totally balance on his 2 feet. He does have ankle tilts, and his feet can actually move forward, which helps him out in poses, because the other guys, they're all pretty much fixed as far as like the angle of their feet. But no, Hook can do this. And also, sometimes you want to pop this back to allow his arms to go up more, which is why, again, I thought that it was weird that this doesn't seem to have a place that it rests normally. You just sort of let it float so you can have a little more articulation. And yeah, Hook is, I don't want to say he's a mess, but it's not as good as I think he could have been. I think a couple more improvements would have really helped him out to make him feel like he's just as good as the rest of them. He's got his pistol, and his version of using a bit of Devastator is just to use the front gun barrel as like a big old hand cannon. It actually looks pretty good like that. I like that. I think it works pretty well. And I didn't mention this before, but Long Haul actually uses the main part of Devastator's blaster for his alternate weapon, and this thing looks like it's the last weapon in some 90s first-person shooter. But yeah, so these two guys are going to form the main torso of Devastator, and you can still tell that Long Haul is most of that. Alright, so let's start looking at the arm guys, who are probably the best individual figures of the whole set. So second to last, we have Scavenger, who he was one of my favorites as a kid, just because he had the whole working front shovel here, which this one still has. The modern version, though, you cannot twist the upper part of the excavator like on the original. There are joints that you could use to twist that stuff, but it doesn't quite work because it's actually things dedicated to making Devastator's arms work. But this part does twist, I guess. That's not really where it's supposed to go, but you know, the twist is supposed to be down here, but whatever. But yeah, and you can also, he comes with his gun. This is what killed Prowl. And it just plugs into the back here. Only on that side, though. Alright, so transforming him. He's one of the more involved characters of the bunch. And that's just because, as an arm, he doesn't really need to change himself a lot to become Devastator's arm, so he's probably the least affected by his part in Devastator. So I'm going to pull these out. They come off of these tabs right here. And underneath you can see that we've got these two wheels for moving and also this roller thing, which actually works really well. So we're just going to leave those out to the side for now. I'm going to pull this panel down, bring up his head, put it like that. And what you can do here, it can get a little messy right here, because what's going to happen is the sides of the excavator are going to come up like this, and this is one of his arms right here. And with this one, what's going on is you're going to kind of flip that thing inside the cabin for the excavator. And as you're bringing his arms up, this joint right here is tough. It's like it's really stiff. So his shoulder tends to pop off. I seem to find on mine. And again, you're just going to flip out his arms like that. To finish off his lower half, you're going to flip this whole thing, this here, which is actually Devastator's shoulder, up into position. And this part always kind of confuses me. So his pelvis here, it actually separates right here. And all these little tabs and brackets here are just going to get shoved right into this area right here. Alright, now to finish off his legs, pop this out like that, and bring this thing down right here. It's going to just lock in place like that. Bring out his other leg, and his feet are formed by the ends of the treads. It's not quite like it was on the G1 toy, but it still works pretty well. And you're just going to get these parts out, kind of clean them up a little bit, and here we go. We've got Scavenger, Robot Mode. So again, Scavenger and Bone Crusher feel like the least compromised out of all the figures as far as like what they need to do to become part of Devastator, because pretty much their arm mode is just their own vehicle modes with like one minor change. So they feel like the most complete. They aren't really, again, affected by anything as being part of Combiner. As such, the Combiner Wars versions aren't very different than the Unite Warriors version. The most Unite Warriors version does change, as far as I know, is the knee, instead of it being just a ball joint, it's now like just a swivel with a mushroom connection and just like a regular hinge right here. But other than that, they're pretty similar. It's even hard to tell like what's the difference between them in terms of paint. So yeah, he's a little bit back heavy again because he's got the shovel on his back. But no, he's still pretty good. He's got these nice ball-jointed shoulders, ball-jointed elbows. Just kind of watch out because these can tend to separate because of how tight they are, and depending on like which way you're posing them. I've had these pop off a few times as I was messing around with the figure. But other than that, he's pretty good. And he actually does have like full-on ankle tilts like that. It's kind of hard to get him to stay up on them because some of these joints are just a little bit loose, although not to the point where you could just fix them. So here's his pistol. And again, he's coming for you, pal. Yeah, it looks good with it. It's a nice little like grease gun thingy. And as I showed you before, the forearms for Devastator, they become like a little missile launcher thing. These are just kind of painted on there, and it's really not a functioning weapon, but still. There's a flip-out handle, which is actually on Devastator's hand. And there you go. Now he's got a missile launcher thing. Yeah, Scavenger's pretty cool. One of the nicer figures of the set, although my favorite is still Scrapper, but that's because the Unite Warriors version really makes Scrapper way better than the Combiner Wars version. But anyway, let's move on to, last but not least, Bone Crusher. So rounding out the Constructicons is Bone Crusher, who is just a bulldozer. That's all he is. His little scoop raises up and down, or the blade I should say. There's actually two joints on it in case you want to make it go like that for whatever reason. But yeah, not a whole lot changed between this and the Combiner Wars version, although he does have the gun, which just kind of happily goes into a little peg hole right here. And also he has purple on the inside of his treads. That's there to make Devastator look a bit more symmetrical, because in the cartoon they tended to color Bone Crusher's treads as purple when they were combined into Devastator, which, you know, it's hard to do that on a toy unless you have color changing paint. Anyway, so yeah, he's a nice little solid thing, and he's again got the little big roller here, and also little wheels here. So he moves around pretty well. A little toy bulldozer. So, transforming him, he has similar legs to Scavenger. You have the tread legs here. And as you're bringing this part around, you untab it from, or you unlock it from this little hook right there. So I know a lot of people are having problems with Bone Crusher's crotch. So here's how you do it so that everything will pretty much lock together. You're going to notice there's a peg on this side, and there's a slot on this side, or a tab and a slot, I should say. And these are going to come together to help lock everything in place. And also, this is not a peg, this is a hook. So it's trying to go over this part on this side. So I found the best way to do this so that this will actually lock in place is you're going to angle these kind of down like this. Basically, you're going to want that tab that's on this side to kind of just barely be going into here. So that when you bring these together, you bring that, oh, I didn't get it quite like that, so that the tab comes together going between these two parts, and it also will kind of force these two sections together in a way that the hook here goes over this part. So again, the hook is going to be on, I guess, the bottom, curling up around the crotch here. And there's also like a little hook on this side. You can kind of see it a little more clearly right there. So this is as tight as I can get his crotch. He doesn't usually come undone for me. So I don't know. Maybe I found the secret technique to do it, but yeah, it seems to stay together pretty well like this. Alright, so let me focus on his upper body for a sec. You're going to pull out this thing, which is actually part of Devastator's arm. You're going to undo this part back here, flip up the cabin, flip out his head, and these two parts are going to separate, and they're going to form his arms. So back here, what you're going to do is bring this up. You can see there's a little channel right here that's going to go up and over this other part of this black piece here. So this will all lay flat when he's in robot mode. There's also a tab here that's going to go into this back part right here. So just kind of snap that in place. And there's just a whole bunch of slots on the side here that can go into all of these tabs right here. So that's pretty much Bone Crusher's robot mode. Unfold his arms. Do the same thing you did for Scavenger, where you pull out his legs. And maybe you want to do that first, because now I just undid his crotch there. But again, I think I've got a handle on getting this all locked together. Yeah. Yeah, it can be a little difficult, just because you have all these different parts that are trying to move around. So there you go. All right, there it goes. His dozer blade, it's sort of like locks in place. Like there's a place for it to rest on these two little tabs that are sticking up. So you just sort of like put it there, and you find the spot where it isn't quite covering his chin. Yeah, it's weird. It's not quite as precise as I wish it could have been. So, because it feels like you have to leave this a little bit forward, but you're also, yeah, you're kind of moving the main hinge right here, and it sort of has to rest like this. It feels like this should be like more level with his shoulders here, but it just kind of rests in the front like that. Alright, so anyway, just going to finish that off. Flip his feet out. And this thing, you can leave it like this. I kind of tend to put it like this so you don't see it as much from the front. But that's really the biggest change with Bone Crusher's new toy, is he's got a bit of Devastator hanging off his back at all times. But anyway, here he is in robot mode. So Bone Crusher's robot mode is probably the cleanest of the bunch. Up there with Scrapper as far as cartoon accuracy is concerned. Again, the biggest change is you've got this piece of Devastator's forearm just on his back. It's not really obtrusive, it's just there. You know, kind of pretend it doesn't exist. You could, if you want, move it up like this and kind of stick it in the back there. So that makes him feel like he's just a little bit more back heavy by having it up there. So I tend to just curl it in the back right like that. He actually has the best arms out of the group because of his transformation. So he's got a full-on double joint. There's a ball joint here and just a regular swivel right here. So, you know, he's again pretty much the same as the rest of the group, but really, really cartoon accurate. Almost to a fault, because this version does not have the silver paint around all this detailing here. Instead, it leaves it just green, because that's how it was in the show. He didn't have the remnants of the sticker that was there. He just kind of had like the red parts and the purple part, but none of the silver. So that's how it was in the show, and that's what Takara Tomy did. You know, his legs are pretty much the same as Scrapper's. You know, he's got the full-on ankle tilt like that, and you know, he's a nice posable kind of thug bruiser for the group. And like the rest of the Unite Warriors versions, he does have his own little pistol right there, and his use of Devastator's parts is similar. You can have this be a missile launcher, or if you want, and this will work with any of the characters, but you can just flip out the fist, and it uses the same kind of peg to connect to this part as any of the guns, so you can actually use these like big old Hulk hands for any of the characters. So I think that's cool. But yeah, so here's a little taste of what Devastator is going to be like. So let me get all these guys transformed and ready to unite into Devastator. So before you combine all the Constructicons into Devastator, you're going to want to start off with most of them in vehicle mode, save for long haul. And I'm going to begin with the top and transform Hook, or Gooden. So to start off, you're going to want to move this to the side like for robot mode. Take his own forearms and just flip them like this for now. And much like any hook you may be familiar with, you're going to basically bend this thing in half. So right here on this side there's a tab, and you just want to maybe get your finger in there to disengage it. So you bring that forward like that, and on this side it actually comes out a bit easier. So bring these together, and there's a little locking point right here that will keep Hook all together in his I guess top of the torso mode. So this does go together. You just got to get a good feel for it. Come on now. There it goes. Alright, and a couple of things you need to do. You're going to leave this forearm in the middle like this. This one you can kind of let it hang out right now, but there's a tab, and that's going to go into long haul. You're going to flip this thing down. This is also part of what connects to long haul, and you're also going to flip down this connector right here. So you basically have 3 points where Hook locks into long haul. And also you can do this, you can bring the head out, and this is Devastator's head. It's got just kind of a basic swivel right there. A cool thing about the Unite Warriors version is if you flip up the forehead, now you can have Devastator without his shades. And it's just kind of a neat little thing, and it's very easy to do. And it brings together the fact that Devastator in the show had both individual eyes and shades, because he had different animation models depending on how close you were to him. So anyway, to finish this off, you bring this out. This is where Bone Crusher will plug in, and you can pop up the cab on the crane, bring that up, and now here is the part for Scavenger to hook in. And I would recommend that you put Devastator's chest plate onto hook first, because it's a lot easier when you do it like that. So just take the two halves, connect them together, and on the back here, you're going to notice a couple of places where it's going to stick into hook. There's this little C-clip right here that goes into the little square hole right there. This peg right here is going to go into this hole right here. And that's pretty much what keeps this thing connected to hook. So just stick that in there and then get that in there. I find this peg is actually fairly tight. Alright, so this is the top part of Devastator. Now let's get long haul. Alright, so here's long haul, and as I said before, you've pretty much got most of Devastator's body just in this one figure, which is why he starts off in robot mode. Alright, so what you want to do is you just want to flip up Long Haul's arms like this. Use a little sideways elbow action. Flip his head down. You can pop this up, and you're just going to spin Long Haul's waist around. And then you can just bring this thing back down. Don't lock it in right now. Alright, so I said before there's 3 places that hook is going to lock in. Here, here, and here on the top part of Long Haul. So again, that is this thing, this arm, and then this thing. So you just want to get all of them kind of lined up. I find that the one that goes into Long Haul's smokestack is the most difficult to get in. And also while you're doing this, this tab right here on Long Haul's arm is going to go into the slot Hook's foot. And there's also another one here, right on the side of Hook's chest, on that part. So this is just, it's a lot of just slamming these things together until they all line up. I find that it can be difficult to get the tabs that go from Long Haul's arms into parts of Hook to be perfect, like on the first try. And also, again, the one that goes into the smokestack is probably the most difficult to get in. Alright, so that's all in place. And here we've got Devastator's torso, which is already approaching about a foot tall. So he's going to be pretty big when all is said and done. Alright, so here's Scrapper, one of the few leaders who isn't the torso. And to turn him into a leg, you're going to spin the cabin around so that it goes over these back parts of Scrapper's vehicle mode, and just kind of make sure that these are lined up in the right place. You actually also want to unplug these first, just to get them in the right position. So the scoop, what's going to happen is there's a tab here that goes into this slot right here. So make sure you get this in place for his foot mode. You're going to rotate these around, and you can see there's a pair of these little clips here, and you're just going to use the ones that help lock Scrapper's arms in place for this mode. And right here for his arms, there's this little, again, couple of prongs right here. They're going to go over this little ridge back here. Do this on both sides, and to finish it off, you actually use Scrapper's own fists as kind of like an extra heel support. Now up here in this part, you're going to just flip these up, just sort of like you're going to robot mode, but only like halfway. And these are going to be what plug into Long Haul. Alright, so that's Scrapper. And just real quick, I'm going to do Mixmaster as well. Just unplug only this part of Mixmaster's arms. Keep this all together. Flip this out. Flip this out, so there's your heel strut right there. And you're going to bring the front part out, again, like you're going to robot mode. You're you're going to split this, and you're going to flip out his heels, or his feet, just enough so you can bring this thing out. So this is basically the front panel of the cement mixing truck. So same thing on this side, although it's a little weird because there's this tab that connects these two parts together. So you kind of have to like leave it like this, pull it like at an angle, and then pull it out. And here you go. And then you just take this, put it back together, and just kind of lock this back in place. Alright, and here we go. These are Devastator's legs. And now here's where the toy starts to grow larger than when I can fit on camera. But anyways, so I'm going to connect Mixmaster first. So to finish off these legs here, what you're going to want to do is just put Long Haul's own feet away. So just kind of find a place that you can fold these back inside. I guess you got to use the full joint here. Again, it's hard to move these hips because, well, they're about to support an 18-inch tall Transformer. Alright, so just flip this out and flip this part out. So this is actually Devastator's knees. And there's a panel that comes out here to make this have this part line up with the wheels here. And so in the back, there is this little slot. And this slot is going to go onto these things right here. So with Mixmaster, you kind of have to get this in front here, kind of in between all of this stuff. And that should slot on like that. And these two parts, they have their own places to snap in. Okay? Easy enough. There's one leg. And now we've got to do the second leg. And it's, again, pretty similar. On Scrapper, he has this little section here that's going to go right in there. And he also has the same little T-shaped little bracket that just slides in like this. So Devastator locks together incredibly well, considering, you know, he's, again, kind of like a budget masterpiece, but even so, he's quite hefty. So here we go. Yeah, he's just kind of armless right now, so let me get him some arms. Alright, and as we climb high into the sky, I am rapidly running out of backdrop. But anyways, so here we have Scavenger. So to transform Scavenger into an R, you're just going to put that down like that. You're going to undo his treads just for a bit, and then you're going to bring out this thing. So this is Scavenger's chest, and it has a hole on it that goes into this part of Devastator's forearms. So they're not doing integrated forearms, but you know, it's like that in the original toy, so I'm not really bothered by it. So I'm going to have that, and you can kind of just like reslot these back in place, but you might want to just leave them out because there's a whole bunch of things you need to do to get this all to come together. So the main thing is you get this square hole goes on this thing right up here. And as you're doing it, you might just want to pull the chest shield forward just a bit, because the chest shield actually has a pair of tabs that go and they will lock into Scavenger's treads. And also back here, I'm just going to move Scavenger's arm, or Devastator's arm out of the way. There is a tab here that goes into Scavenger's legs as well. So that connects Long Haul into Scavenger. And it's a kind of similar deal. On this side, you just kind of separate Bone Crusher's treads, bring out the forearm thing, grab Devastator's forearm, stick it on there, And there's the square part right here. This is going to go in here. I found that Bone Crusher like really takes a lot more effort to get on and to get off. So again, you got that in there. You have a couple of tabs that go in there into Bone Crusher's treads, and on this side again, tab Long Haul's arm into Bone Crusher. So here we go. This is Unite Warriors Devastator. So Unite Warriors Devastator, and also the Combiner Wars version, he's big. He is 18 inches tall, or 45 centimeters, as the Unite Warriors box points out. You can see here he is with Masterpiece MP10 Optimus Prime. Here he is with Hand Masterpiece Sideswipe and one of the Combiner Wars guys, Off-Road. So, design-wise, style-wise, he's definitely trying to be a Masterpiece stand-in, an official Masterpiece stand-in. And honestly, I think he looks pretty awesome. And he's not giving you the finger there. But yeah, he's huge, and I'm going to try my best as I can to show you how he moves. Unfortunately, if I pull back even more, we're kind of at the limits of my photo setup. So Devastator, or Devastar, is a ginormous Transformers toy. And despite this, he's still got a full range of articulation. You know, both of his shoulders, they've got pretty much, you can go all the way around with them. He's got a nice, just kind of simple two-directional axis shoulder joint. His hands can spin and the fingers open up. And sometimes when you bring him back, the little peg that is used for when the forearms are in missile mode comes up. But, you know, don't do that because that's the middle finger right there. But anyway, same thing with Bone Crusher on this side. Now with Bone Crusher, you're supposed to put this, his own dozer blade like that, which is like, yeah, that looks okay, but I'd prefer it just to be sticking up like that as it was on the original toy. So yeah, you got, you know, fully moving arms here. And his head can move left and right. It does not hit against the crane part of Hook there. And as I showed you before, you have optional shades. I like the shades out, so I'm just going to leave them out like that. I do wish this was like a clear part, because that'd be really cool to have the clear visor over the opaque eyes, but oh well. Anyways, he's got a fully functioning waist joint, which is, you know, it's just Long Haul's waist. But still, hey, it's pretty good for a big old combiner like this. Now, as I spin him around to the back, there is a place that you can actually put all of the guns from the individual Constructicons. So, there's not really a rhyme or reason to how you're combining them, just do it like the instruction shows. You put Scavenger's gun into Long Haul's gun, and you put it here. And then you have this just mess of different weapons. In the middle, this is Scrapper's gun. This is Bone Crusher's gun. It goes into the small peg on the side there. And then on this side you have, this is Mixmaster's gun facing forward, and then this is Hook's gun facing backwards. Again, you could probably find a different way to do it. This is just how they fit together and how it's shown in the instructions. So you just stick these on the back, and they sort of cover the gap left by Long Haul's feet no longer being there. So, again, he's big, gigantic. Let me focus on his legs for a little bit. As you heard before, Long Haul's hips are very strong. You can easily put this out all the way, and it's no problem. He can bear the weight. You just gotta get your hand in there, and it helps that you have a bit more leverage with longer legs right here. Of course, he's still got a thigh swivel thanks to Long Haul's own legs. He's got a knee joint here, And also you kind of got a joint up here, but you don't want to use it because it looks weird. I guess that's if you wanted to have kind of the classic look where this hip armor isn't moving, and you have like the hip joint right there, but no, it's actually right up here. So anyway, both Scrapper and Mixmaster, they have 3 clicks for an ankle, or 2 clicks I should say, just 2, for an ankle tilt. So 1, 2. And then on this side, 1, 2. I've heard you can overstress Mixmaster's ankle tilt if you do it too much. Again, so there's only 2 of them there. You know, that's pretty much it. Don't go any farther than that so you don't break him. But other than that, Devastator is gigantic. He is a super solid, posable, humongous Transformer. And he looks cool. And he's fun to mess around with. He's actually more articulated than the components that make him up, pretty much. So, let me pull this back here. So again, you can see you've got your nearly 2-foot tall Transformer posing. And real quick, let me give you this gun. It doesn't peg in or anything, you just put it in there and slam his fingers around it. But yeah, so this is Unite Warriors Devastator. Just a much cleaner, nicer looking version of Combiner Wars Devastator. Should be Unite Warriors Devastar. I don't know why they changed the name, but that's what it is. Anyway, I'm super happy with this, actually. This is such a cool toy. I think the individual toys are neat. I think the Unite Warriors version, you know, adding elbows to Scrapper and, you know, also to Long Haul and changing their colors up and all that kind of stuff, it really helps make this feel like a truly deluxe package. If the Combiner Wars version is sort of the theatrical release, this is like the director's cut, straight from Japan. So if you're on the fence about getting one of these, I would go for the Unite Warriors version. It's just, it's big, it's neat, it's fun to have all 6 of them together. They look just like they should, in my opinion at least, even with Mixmaster being a little different, or Long Haul too. But you know what? This is still more on point than any of the third-party ones out there. That's why I really never went for any of them, because I wanted the classic cartoon Devastator that I saw again in Heavy Metal War many years ago. So for the foreseeable future, this is my ideal Devastator, unless Takara Tomy actually does make a masterpiece Devastator, but we'll see. This is still pretty good. One of his arms is a little loose though, but I can fix that. But yeah, he's big, mean, green, and he's got optional shades. What more could you want in your giant robot? So anyway, before I close out this review, I just want to do one last comparison. And so before I'm closing out this review, I'm just giving you a size comparison with my childhood G2 Devastator, one of the G1 Constructicons I picked up over the years, and Unite Warriors Devastator. So this is how far we've come in over 30 years almost. Pretty much. So yeah, Devastator was one of my favorites. I actually reviewed him for CollectionDX. I'll put the link above his head. I loved this toy as a kid, but he was so frustrating to play with because he would just fall apart constantly. This is solid. It's just chunky. It's really like what you would want, at least in my opinion, for a G1 style Devastator that combines, you know, all the components look pretty good, even Fat Long Haul. And, you know, I'm glad that I waited for Takara Tomy version because, again, he's just got a nice bit of extra polish to him. Like with their other Unite Warriors re-releases of Combiner Wars toys. So yeah, definitely highly recommend Unite Warriors Devastator. With today's exchange rate, he is about $200 though. So it's kind of up to you whether or not you think getting this all-in-one is worth it comparing to getting the American Combiner Wars version, picking up one of the third-party option sets to make that one better. Oh, and outside, that's a front-end loader right now. Maybe it's Scrapper. But anyway, if you just want it all in one, like you're getting everything in the package, guns, better arms for the individual guys and all that stuff, just get the Unite Warriors version. It looks good. It's pretty much all you need in one package, and honestly, I'm super happy with it. But anyway. Oh, and might as well do it right here. This is how big Devastator is compared to the VHS tape that I originally saw him on. So there we go. 18 inches tall. Anyways, this is Van for CollectionDX.com and saying prepare for extermination.